Dear friends, I welcome you to my channel. I am Berezovets. Today we will discuss the new appointment in the administration of future President Trump at the Pentagon. Let's talk about the elimination of Russian war criminals who have finally been found by the long arm. We will discuss the justice of the scandalous publication by the British The Times, which claims that Ukraine is close to creating its own nuclear weapons, as well as what Ukraine is reportedly planning to do, according to the influential American New York Times, before possible peace negotiations. American journalists claim that it intends to prioritize security guarantees over the return of territory. Friends, more on all of this. So, the story with the appointments of officials continues, as well as key bureaucrats are being appointed to positions in the future cabinet of the 47th President of the USA, Donald Trump. Elon Musk, who, according to a leading American economic agency, Bloomberg, spent over $120 million on Donald Trump's presidential campaign, is running alongside another controversial Republican millionaire, Vivek Ramaswamy, who even ran for President of the USA and was one of the opponents during the primaries against Donald Trump. They will head the new Department of Government Efficiency in the USA. DOGE. Trump announced this on his social network as well as on the social network Telegram. Together, these two remarkable Americans will pave the way for my administration. To dismantle government bureaucracy, reduce excessive regulations, wasteful spending, and restructure federal agencies, Trump stated, this new department, whose name coincidentally matches the cryptocurrency actively promoted by Elon Musk himself, will handle consultations for the US government, collaborate with the White House, and manage the budget for large-scale restructuring. Reform and the creation of an entrepreneurial approach to government, quoting, Trump unprecedented before. The discussion is about the fact that as part of Trump's personnel revolution, he has already promised to fire over 50,000 civil servants from various federal departments, ministries, and agencies of the United States. This is the personnel revolution that Trump announced primarily as a fight against the deep state, the infamous deep state, a crusade that Trump declared during his presidential campaign in 2016. The focus will be on those bureaucrats and civil servants who, according to Trump, significantly hindered the implementation of his domestic and foreign policy during his presidency from 2016 to 2020. Trump is confident, and he supports this theory, and his supporters also advocate for it, that this deep state acted against American interests to the detriment of the Trump administration, which seeks to pursue an increasingly isolationist policy. The isolationist policy is primarily aimed at what Trump put forward as the key slogan of his campaign, America First. America First, its interests first, and from this standpoint, it is emphasized that US domestic policy should be upheld and executed primarily by the American president, the US Congress, and all federal agencies and departments. Members of his team also advocate from these positions. Paradoxically, most of the people Trump has appointed or is appointing were, in the past, his staunch critics. In particular, Marco Rubio, the new candidate for the position of Secretary of State. Or the same Mike Waltz, the future National Security Advisor. All of them criticized Trump at one time or another. Some, like Rubio, even called him a fascist element, but over time they reconciled with the US president. And we see the principles of personal loyalty as well as a coincidence of views on Trump's course that he formulated as Make America Great Again. Making America Great Again is a coincidence of views on this course and is the key condition that serves as a pass to the future team of the 47th President of the United States. Besides Musk and Ramaswamy, who, I remind you, is primarily remembered for his scandalous statements regarding the need not to give money to Ukraine. He who spoke from many pro-Moscow positions, this is the same Ramaswamy, I remind you, an American of Indian descent, who ultimately lost to Trump in the primaries, dropped out of the race quite early, supported him, and in fact, probably thanks to this nomination, he received his current nomination. What exactly will this very door, the Department of Government Efficiency, be engaged in? So far, no one knows, including Musk himself. However, the increasingly prominent role of the American businessman and entrepreneur is increasingly alarming. The American business community, as well as the media. In particular, Bloomberg wrote an article, a large long read, dedicated to Elon Musk, where he essentially called him an oligarch, a word that is taboo, essentially forbidden. In relation to the American situation, oligarchs have always claimed that they are somewhere out there, across the sea, across the ocean, somewhere in Europe, Asia, or Africa. In Asia, there are oligarchs. In America, there is no place for oligarchs in the 20th century anymore. They were present in the 19th century. We remember that they were fought against. Antitrust legislation was enacted, prohibiting, dividing, and dismantling. The largest American companies, primarily the oil companies of that time, can be likened to Tesla and SpaceX. These oil giants were forced to be dismantled by the US government because they occupied a monopolistic position in the American and global markets. And now Elon Musk is returning to that status. A person with ambitions, limitless, and, let's say, completely indescribable by any word. A person who is currently having a direct influence on the personnel decisions of the next American President Donald Trump. Many write about the inevitable conflict between them, that two similar types, two similar characters, charismatic, selfish, egocentric, cannot coexist for long. One can practically agree with these, let's say, observations and reflections, since from the perspective of personal with ambition, Trump will sooner or later enter into a sharp conflict with Elon Musk, or Musk with Trump. By the way, Bloomberg hints that the future is not with Trump but with Musk. Although he does not have the right, I remind you, to run for the presidency of the United States because he was born outside the US, specifically in the Republic of South Africa, according to the American Constitution and laws. He announced his candidacy for president, but he can become a senator, governor, congressman, minister, lead intelligence, in short, anything. This is what we are observing now. He donated $120 million to Donald Trump's election campaign. These are the clarified data from Bloomberg. It's more than 75 million, which were mentioned earlier, but here's the key. The thing is that, according to the latest data, the capitalization of his business has already increased by more than $50 billion. The richest person in the United States right now. His fortune is already estimated at over $300 billion. No one has weighed so much in, let's say, monetary equivalent. Well, obviously, if we measure the oligarch from the past, perhaps Rockefeller would surpass him again in prices. By 2024, his fortune may be even greater, or perhaps not. But in short, he is definitely one of the richest, if not the richest American in history, an oligarch. The word oligarch is derogatory. By labeling Musk as an oligarch, the American press makes him even more toxic and unapproachable. Although, for many representatives and supporters of the current new president, more precisely, the new President Trump, Musk is a genius. A person who largely defines the image not only of current America, but also of the new administration. A person who, moreover, puts forward his own vision regarding the political course. We see, I repeat, this all confirms his insatiable ambitions. Well, besides. Musk and Ramaswamy too, by the way. The question is how they will get along together. Two very ambitious and self-centered characters. I think they will tear each other apart. Probably even faster than Musk will part ways with Trump. At the very least, I would like Ramaswamy to be removed from the future president's team as soon as possible, I repeat, due to his extreme toxicity and some kind of blatant sympathy, absolutely not hidden, towards Moscow. In addition, Trump nominated the host of Fox News, veteran of the United States Army Pete Hegseth, for the position of the next head of the Pentagon. A descendant of Scandinavian settlers, he served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and at the American base in Guantanamo. Trump described him as tough, smart, and genuinely believing that America is above all. In addition, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem will take the position of head of the Department of Homeland Security. He called her very strong, Noem, during her time in office as governor, made the fight against immigration a key point of her agenda, and sharply criticized the administration of current President Joe Biden. All these appointments, I will repeat, are unlikely to please anyone in the Kremlin offices. Despite all the other things, despite the fact that many of the new appointees, in particular the same Volker, are the same. Rubio was criticized in particular regarding further funding for Ukraine, expressing calls to end the war. Waltz, in particular, voted against the $60 billion military aid package. I remind you, he is a sitting congressman of the United States. Well, in addition, Eliza Stephanie, who also voted, is also a congresswoman, a Republican. She also voted against providing further military aid to Ukraine. She will be the next permanent representative of the US to the United Nations, one of the key positions in American diplomacy as well. In short, all these people, nevertheless, I will repeat, despite their criticism regarding further aid to Ukraine, they never doubted that Putin must be fought against. Moreover, Waltz is also a veteran of the American Army, a Special Forces soldier, I remind you, a colonel of Special Operations Forces who fought in Afghanistan. In addition, he is also a staunch opponent of China. Well, in general, that's the whole story. Alongside this national security advisor will be another veteran of the United States Army, Pete Hegseth, who, by the way, is known as a staunch supporter of Israel. He is categorically against Iran's dominance in the region. He advocates for all possible assistance and expansion of American aid. He has a large number of tattoos. He is known for having the American flag with an F-16 rifle tattooed on his right shoulder, and on his right chest, he has a tattoo of the Jerusalem cross. Also, let's say, one of the important symbols of Christianity. He is known as a devout believer. He has as many as 7 children with his spouse, and in general, I will repeat, all these people should seriously scare many people in Russia itself, as well as its allies in Iran, in China at the very least. In a word, well, this character simply will not be there. It has also been reported, as Fox News states, that Trump plans to restore the position of special representative for Ukraine. I remind you, in the previous administration, there was a position of special representative for Ukraine, though from the State Department. It was an unpaid position held by a career employee of the Central Intelligence Agency. As an analyst, he was also a career diplomat, Kurt Volker, who has not received any appointment in the administration, at least not yet in the Trump administration, and it is unlikely he will return in the near future. It is reported that this position of special representative for Ukraine will be taken by a career American diplomat who worked alongside Mike Pompeo. Brian Hook served as the U.S. Special Representative for Iran and senior advisor to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo from September 2018 to August 2020. Well, what is primarily known about him is that he also took a strong anti-Iranian stance, is a specialist on this country, which is also, I agree, quite important, and he will be able to connect the Ukrainian and Israeli tracks. We see many representatives in the administration, I will repeat, oriented, very strict regarding support for Israel, and many, I will repeat, take anti-Moscow, anti-Kremlin positions, although there are different, let's say, different viewpoints on support for Ukraine, ranging from polar opposites like Rubio, who has been maximally supportive, to the polar opposite Stefanik, who opposed it. In short, the team is ambiguous but very interesting. A key question is how long they will remain in their positions and how they should maintain their places. This is a big question, actually, we know. During Trump's first administration, his first presidency was characterized by a revolving door of personnel, where officials and representatives of the White House changed literally every few months. And this precedent, referred to as the Scaramucci precedent, will obviously weigh heavily on the current administration. In short, we are discussing plans on how these people will come. They will change things. It will be like this and that. In a month, 2, 3, not in a month, but in 2, 3, 4, 6 months, they will be removed and replaced with completely different ones. And all forecasts will have to be built anew. Therefore, all these forecasts, I make a separate note here, are not even medium term, but short term. This is Donald Trump's style of management. This is how he is used to managing. He is used to managing, so there is no doubt that most of these people, if not all, will hardly stay until the end of Trump's presidential term. Perhaps someone will stay, I don't know. Again, let's not make any promises. But there is a high chance that they will leave their positions at one time or another. Some will transition, like Mike Pompeo, who was initially the CIA director under Trump and then moved to the State Department. By the way, American intelligence agencies are also expecting significant purges. There is also information that Hexet is already preparing lists of hundreds of top American military officials that Trump intends to dismiss. Also, dissatisfied will also be reviewing how this will end. This personnel shuffle remains to be seen. Well, the American track has been closed. Today we had to discuss this whole story in detail. And finally, the story of yesterday's elimination of a Russian war criminal. Initially, there was information that a car exploded in occupied Sevastopol in Crimea, and a certain Russian military officer, Valery T., was eliminated. They reported Valery T. as a captain of the first rank. That is, a captain. And later it became known that this was captain of the first rank Valery, Trankovsky, from the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation, 41st Brigade of Missile Ships and Boats. He became the commander of this formation in 2022, that is, the year of the invasion. He served in military unit 43292. I apologize, this is about someone else, Nikita Klenov, who was eliminated. 43292, who was shot in the village of Melenki. And this Trankovsky was blown up. His legs were torn off. And he died from blood loss. It is reported that Trankovsky was involved in shelling peaceful Ukrainian cities, in particular in Venice, where over 20 peaceful Ukrainian citizens were killed. Ukrainian special services conducted another operation. Another piece of news related to Trump's election. The South Korean government is likely to reconsider its plans and may refuse to supply weapons to Ukraine. This is a direct dependence on Donald Trump's return to the White House, as well as his intentions to negotiate a ceasefire in Ukraine. An anonymous South Korean official informed the American agency Bloomberg about this. The government of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol will now weigh whether it is worth it, whether to fit into the story of arms supplies if Trump intends to end this war quickly. Another scandal, reported by The Times, this information is being verified by the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry. Naturally, all this will fuel, so to speak, statements from Moscow, which has always claimed that Ukraine is dangerously planning to surrender a nuclear bomb. The Times reported that a report has been prepared and submitted for consideration to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense regarding Ukraine's intention to create its own nuclear bomb. This report was prepared by the Center for Army Research, Conversion and Disarmament. That is, it was prepared by employees of analytical structures. The Institute for Strategic Studies of Nations is also involved. But this is an unofficial position. An immediate denial followed. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, commenting on the publication, stated that Ukraine adheres to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. We do not possess, do not develop, and do not intend to create nuclear weapons. Ukraine closely collaborates with the IAEA, transparently, monitoring, which excludes the use of nuclear materials for military purposes. This was stated by the representative of the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, Georgy Tiki. Well, it is clear that in Moscow this is, as they say, honey. Such information will be immediately inflated. They will use this story in every possible way and say, we warned you. We said that Ukraine is justified. It is dangerous. It intends to create its own nuclear weapons. No, it does not intend to, and does not have, moreover, the capabilities, as experts say. And finally, another leading American publication, the New York Times, citing two high-ranking Ukrainian officials, stated that ahead of the start of peace negotiations, Ukraine prioritizes security guarantees over the return of occupied territories. One of the officials interviewed stated that The territorial issue is extremely important, but it is still the second question. The first question is security guarantees. This was also stated by the head of the Committee on Defense and Intelligence of the Verkhovna Rada, Roman Kostenko, who said that there is nothing more important for Ukraine. The negotiations should be based on. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Reich, Lavrov, has already commented on this information, who was hysterical. We see this reaction. He was hysterical regarding the new president, saying that we do not believe them, and we do not understand and do not want to understand how they want to freeze everything for 10 years with guarantees. In short, Trump is just as bad, just as much a scoundrel as the current US President Joe Biden. This only emphasizes that for the Kremlin, there is no good president of the United States, and there cannot be one in principle. And finally, another piece of information, also interesting, the leading German publication, tabloid Bild, reports that the Ukrainian army near the Donetsk region has deployed a super powerful self-propelled artillery system, Su-2S7 Pion. The mass of the self-propelled artillery system is 30 tons, and the length of the barrel is 12 meters. It is reported that each shell of the record caliber of 203 mm weighs over 100 kilos. It is reported that this weapon all the time. It was specifically developed for the destruction of deeply reinforced enemy fortifications. The self-propelled artillery is now effectively used in the Turkish direction, thanks to the arrival of American ammunition, specifically developed for the American guns M110 and M115. These are our news for today, friends. Take care of yourselves, subscribe to the channel. We have almost reached 1 million subscribers, so if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do so. It is literally a matter of a few days before we achieve this. Fresh video reports from the front, occurring in the Kursk direction, are also uploaded on my YouTube channel. What is happening there now? The situation is extremely tense. And you can watch these short reports, interviews, everything is there. Take care. Glory to Ukraine, Ukrainian Armed Forces, Special Forces, Territorial Defense. This was Major Taras Berezovets of the Ukrainian Army. Until we meet again, goodbye.